Now, before we actually get into what's happening on Emmerdale, I first want to talk about it being ranked 6th after being in last place. I want to make sure that it's known that Emmerdale didn't jump to 6th place because it's good, or even that much better, or not boring anymore, because it still is boring. It really only jumped to 6th place because the American soap operas are so poorly written that even though Emmerdale is written bad, especially for a British soap opera right now, it is at least still better written than the American soap operas. I still have like the main problem that I've had with Emmerdale. The same problem I've always had with the show has been the Dingles. Now, I haven't always completely hated the Dingles, but I do feel like as time has gone on and on, they're just a big family full of hypocrites and that not only have eaten the show alive, but they're completely more and more unlikable every single year. When I started doing these rankings in 2021, I already came in hating the Dingles, couldn't stand them anymore. And then last year, I still hated them probably even more. And now in New Year 2023, and I find myself hating them more than ever because they are more and more unlikable every single year. The big part of it is that Chaz, we see Chaz being pretty quickly and easily forgiven by the Dingles. They have this Dingle code that they always have to stick by each other. And then Patty's the one who's getting basically isolated from the family, even though he's been pretty damn good to the family overall, I would say. Now, I've said in the past I don't really care that much about Patty, and I still feel that way. But I think that the fact that Chaz is so easily forgiven without even giving a real genuine sorry about all the problems that she's caused by her affair with Elle really shows why the Dingles are not just hypocrites, but just have become totally unlikable. And seeing as the Dingles and the Dingle adjacent characters on the show are the majority of the show, it doesn't make for good television. At least for me. For me, I can't dislike most characters on a show and still enjoy the show. I can't do that. There needs to be at least a balance of characters I hate and characters to root for, or there can at least be a good number of characters I hate. But at least needs to be a decent amount of characters that I really like and really root for. And Emmerdale doesn't have that at all. Even if we look at somebody like Nicola, who they continue to make, like every time it seems like Nicola is growing as a person, she comes back and is a really awful person. It happens every time. It's like one step forward, two steps back with her. The storyline with her, like, she doesn't really have one. But Naomi was getting a good friendship with Marlon, which I enjoyed, the friendship between Marlon and Naomi, especially for Marlon being a Dingle. But there became tension between Rona and Naomi because of Rona's daughter, and she was blaming Naomi for April getting in a fight at school, and like Naomi was egging it on. It wasn't really, I mean, it's not like Naomi was making her do this. Yes, April is young, but she was still doing this her own self. It's not like, I didn't really like Naomi getting the blame for that and then even getting fired over it, although it seemed like she was getting her job back. Last time I saw that storyline, Charity was the one that sacked Naomi from the pub despite the good friendship developing between Naomi and Marlon. April got into that fight because Arthur was teased for being gay, because that was one of the better storylines on Emmerdale over the past few months, I guess, even though it's going down the very typical path that we see on soaps. So April got in a fight over that, but what made Nicola so terrible in the story is, one, Arthur first came out to Nicola. So, but of course Nicola has that past with Naomi, and she kind of played into trying to turn people against Naomi. just add Nicola to the Dingle section of the show that I can't stand anymore to this point. And speaking of unlikable characters, Layla kind of took a step back herself because Liam's been pushing for a divorce, and Layla, she had recovered from her drug addiction but was falling back on it. But she's not the only unlikable character in that side of the show. David, another unlikable character who we have to watch make boneheaded decision after boneheaded decision. Priya was leaving town because she got a job out of town. She was going to take their daughter, and David tried to even kidnap the daughter for a while. This is, I guess, the big problem with Emmerdale. Everyone is so unlikable, or just continues to make bad decision after bad decision. And I don't know what the fix could even be at this point, because I'm so over the Dingles. Maybe we're gonna get a Dingle war. I see people talking about a Dingle war online, but am I really interested in that? I would only be interested in that if it completely decimates the Dingles and we see Dingle and Dingle adjacent people leave the show one after another. This show, I think, needs a really engrossing new family while they're pushing the Dingles out of the show. Because the Dingle family took over the show and pushed a lot of good families out of the show. It's time for the Dingle reckoning. Because the show ain't working. Nothing on this show is working. And like I said, it's only in 6th place because somehow, some way, the 4 American soap operas have worse writing than this boring show does. Any other note I have is just unlikable characters. Mackenzie being so weird about Chloe's baby. At least Chloe came back to town so we can get the storyline, I guess. But Mackenzie's just a weak man. And unlikable. Gabby's been a real pain in the ass lately. A lot of people calling her Kim Jr. I think Gabby's kind of always been a bit of a annoying and sometimes mean character, but she's getting even meaner. And while she's becoming meaner, guess what? She's unlikable. Everyone on this show currently very unlikable, and it's hard to watch. And yet, the writing might be bad, but at least better than the American crap.